The 10-year plan. Arguably one of the biggest red flags for a live service. When a company says we plan to make this live service journey something that will last for 10 years and beyond before they've even launched it, before they've even established year one, to me, that says you're just trying to sprint before you've even crawled. And that's what's happened with Halo Infinite. But it's also happened with other titles. This is a tale that is very familiar at this stage. Destiny 1 once upon a time said that they're going to make a 10-year-long journey. That didn't last. They had to straight up just make a sequel, Destiny 2. And even that hasn't really fully reached 10 years. And now it's at a phase where it is struggling. And then among the most infamous cases was EA and BioWare's Anthem when they said that this was the start of a 10-year journey. And they said that before they even launched the game. And we know how that ended. Incredibly unceremoniously. The launch was so disastrous that it was never really able to come back from that. Anthem Next, the overhaul of the game, was ultimately canceled by EA. And, on January of 2026, this game will go offline, as in it's not just the dead live service, but it's a dead game that you will no longer be able to access. And it's starting to feel like Halo Infinite is headed in that direction, especially with the most recent announcement. So this right here is Halo Waypoint's blog post titled Operation Infinite Update Preview. And right here we have the announcement that with multiple Halo titles in development, we'll need our whole team's combined focus to deliver new experiences with the same passion and care that our community has given us. While we remain committed to supporting Halo Infinite on the road ahead, Operation Infinite is the last major content update currently planned. This basically signifies the end of Halo Infinite as a live service. The Halo Infinite live service is, after the launch of this content, officially dead. The game will still be accessible, it'll still be playable in the same way Anthem was after it stopped, getting new content. But what's supporting it is just this exoskeleton crew that is maintaining the basics of this experience. But in terms of what makes a live service, which is the constant new content rollout amidst the thriving community, that part is very much just dead. And it's a sad and unceremonious demise for Halo Infinite indeed. And you can especially see this in the player numbers. It peaked at, over 272,000 players, which is a really good start, but you can see the very quick plummet as the game's content offering and its progression systems and its various elements ultimately failed to live up to what Halo fans wanted out of a multiplayer Halo experience, and it eventually just couldn't come back. The player base on Steam, the concurrent players got into the low thousands, and Halo Infinite was yet another live service that advertised itself as being a 10-year-long journey or a 10-year-long plan. But as Video Games Chronicle reports here, with this update, that basically marks Halo Infinite officially ending major updates just 4 years into its 10-year plan. And you have to understand that the ambition with Halo Infinite was for this to be the main Halo game, the main Halo hub and portal for a decade, if not longer. They didn't want to keep making new Halo games. The idea was for Halo Infinite to be the ultimate Halo game, to kind of be a long-lasting experience. This is what Halo Studios, or back then 343 Industries, said back in July of 2020, quote, "Halo Infinite is the start of our platform for the future. We want Infinite to grow over time versus going to those number titles and having all that segmentation that we had before. It's really about creating Halo Infinite as the start of the next 10 years of Halo and then building that as we go with our fans and community." And looking back at that now, it's very clear that they were overly ambitious and maybe even a little arrogant. Like 10 years is an incredibly long time, and there's a very minuscule amount of games who have successfully managed to support their games for 10 years, retain the community, and consistently output content where it's allowed the live service to thrive. 10 years is such a long time to look that far ahead without focusing on just the first couple of years. Hell, just ensuring the launch is as perfect and as contentful and as fleshed out as it can be. They didn't even seem comfortable with how the launch of Halo Infinite was going to go, and they were talking about the next 10 years. That already was a huge red flag for me, and I'm not, frankly, too surprised at how all of this played out. Now, while we're on the topic of comfort, we need to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Flexispot, a company focused on furniture that provides comfort for your day-to-day life and work environment. What I've got for you today is their Japanese Joinery Bed, which offers a number of benefits from your traditional beds, starting with how easy it is to both assemble and disassemble the frame. Thanks to these interlocking joints, everything just fits together like puzzle pieces, so putting it all together is as simple as slotting things in where they go, and taking it apart is as easy as removing pieces from their slots, with only a handful of screws that you can screw in by hand, so there are no tools required whatsoever. The focus on interlocking joints also means that the bed frame is just a lot more stable than traditional beds. The precise tension and compression that hold the joints together yield a tighter and more stable overall structure, so you'll find none of the creaking or wobbling from typical beds. And then there are the smart design choices like how slats are secured with Velcro, ensuring that the slats themselves stay in place, are well secured, and don't make any noise, or how the inward recessed legs allow you to put the bed frame flush against the wall rather than against the baseboard, adding further stability and further reducing squeaking noises, or the 10.2 inches of clearance that provide plenty of room for storage. The materials themselves are also premium and made to last. The rubber wood material here offers a high level of hardness and strength, so it makes the frame very difficult to damage, and the coating applied to the surface offers both moisture and scratch resistance, so the bed frame is fully protected from things like mold and scratches and you name it. Not to mention how all of this comes together into a bed frame that looks clean, sleek, and classy with a really nice fit and finish. There are tons of customization options as well, be it the type and color of wood, the addition of headboards and pillow boards, matching nightstands, underbed drawers, mattresses, so on and so forth to suit your preferences and needs. Best part is that Flexispot's Japanese joinery beds are significantly more cost-effective compared to the competition. So, if you're in the market for a new bed frame that looks great, is easy to put together and break apart, is sturdy, secure, quiet, durable, long-lasting, and comes at a great price, you can click on my link in the description and comment section below to get yours today. But yeah, the gaming community has not forgotten about, back then 343 Industries and now Halo Studios' commitment to a 10-year plan for Halo, or, saying Halo Infinite would be the start of the next 10 years for Halo with poorly aged things. After the announcement that Operation Infinite would be the last major update for Halo Infinite, having posted this headline, and this is something that went viral because it is rather poorly aged. The thing about using this 10-year plan, 10-year journey, 10-year commitment for a franchise or for a game as part of your marketing campaign is that it is on some level a promise that if you buy this game, you will get a ton of value out of it. Before you even know if it's possible, you're telling people this is the ambition that we're going to achieve. And then when you fall short of that, of course, people are going to point that out. So in posts announcing that Halo Studios just killed Halo Infinite's live service, essentially with Operation Infinite being the final piece of major content, people are posting things like the phrase 10 years of service didn't age well. And people, I think, have every right to call that out because that is a big part of the marketing of a game that tries to incentivize people to spend money on their product, having good faith in their ability to deliver on a 10-year journey. But those seldom tend to really pan out. And so you're marketing your game off of a false promise when you say we're going to deliver 10 years, and then you don't deliver 10 years because you weren't able to nail the launch of the first couple years even. And with Halo Infinite in particular, eventually, of course, this news made the rounds on Reddit, the Halo subreddit here. There are plenty of folks who are even surprised that Halo Infinite lasted this long given how rough its pre-launch, launch, and post-launch developments were. So right here, the top comment reads, "Honestly, I'm surprised it lasted so long. I thought for sure once they stopped doing full battle passes in favor of mini operations that the game would peter out soon after that. Kind of crazy they managed to put out any new gameplay content with a skeleton crew." Yeah, what team was left for Halo Infinite? They did a lot of caring. They did their best, but ultimately through a combination of myriad missteps and a lack of content and Halo Infinite ultimately shipping feature incomplete, it was just not an experience that could retain players for the long term, as they were competing live services that were far more compelling of an experience for players to invest much of their daily time on. Even the pre-launch marketing of Halo Infinite was rife with skepticism. It was rife with something's not quite right here, with his gameplay reveal featuring the now infamous Craig, not garnering the wholly positive impression that Xbox and Microsoft were expecting. This gameplay demo and the feedback surrounding it was ultimately what led people for calling for a delay for the game, and that is actually exactly what ended up happening with this announcement on August of 2020. Microsoft delays Halo Infinite to 2021, which did give them time to polish the content that they were planning to ship, and it was a polished launch. The multiplayer component did successfully launch on November of 2021, and the campaign came shortly after on December of 2021. You can see right here, looking at Metacritic, that, generally there was favorable critical and user reception surrounding the launch experience. But this is a live service. And for a live service to be able to maintain engagement and interest, it has to nail its content release. It has to nail its feature set. It has to nail its progression. It has to nail the cadence, consistency, and quality and density of content released throughout the course of this live service life cycle. And that's where Halo Infinite woefully failed, on top of the launch itself just lacking some of the core features that fans associate Halo with. I mean, when it came to the core progression system of the multiplayer, the challenge system was something that was heavily panned by fans, because what challenges did over the traditional experience point system was that it encouraged players to play for themselves. It encouraged them to check off the bucket list of things in the challenge system rather than cohesively play as a team and just have fun that way, because the challenge system forced them to, use specific weapons, do specific actions that forced players to go off on their own and do those things so that they could meet the requirements of the challenge system, because that was the only way to progress the game and get the rewards and get the cosmetics and go through the battle pass and you name it. And so that made for multiplayer matches that were just not fun to play, because everyone was off doing their own thing instead of, coming together to be like, what's best for us as a team to win. And then the monetization system of Halo Infinite was criticized for being just absolutely absurd and just really greedy. I mean, not only did the battle pass offer content that, past Halo games like Halo Reach offered for free as you naturally progress through the game, there's also the fact that there were pay-to-win elements with purchasable XP boosts. There was just level skips that basically discourage you from playing the game, just skipped the progression. And that's kind of what time savers are as far as microtransactions are concerned. It's either they make the game really insufferable for you so that you're incentivized to spend money on the game and its progression, or you just skip through the entire progression, and so you feel no sense of like, I earned this by playing the game and by, just engaging with the title and doing really well and really kind of basking in your victories. There's the fact that there was just not a lot of stuff that you could earn in game, combined with the fact that the cost of cosmetics were just ridiculously priced for what they were offering. I mean, some of the skins were just color swaps, and those were going for amounts of money that did not justify that kind of purchase. And then on top of that, there came a point where Halo Infinite's content updates and releases just really dried out. Ultimately, what keeps people coming back to a live service that's meant to last, 10 years is a consistent cadence and release of high quality content. And Halo Infinite would go months at a time without new compelling content. And so people just got bored of the game and started leaving. Not to mention reports of just how much content was cut throughout the course of Halo Infinite's development, with the gamer here summarizing some of what was leaked as, had Halo Infinite stuck to its 10-year plan, the game would have had multiple multiplayer modes as well as yearly campaign updates, which we definitely did not get. Among the planned additions was a Battle Royale mode, which was, the big thing at the time, trend chasing maybe, but it would have been some kind of additional content, along with a campaign update centered on Atriox. Campaign updates would have been what many folks would have looked forward to, and that was an area where Halo Infinite completely dropped the ball, on top of its campaign not launching with features that make the campaign highly replayable like in past Halo entries. So for example, split screen multiplayer. It is such a central aspect to Halo. Halo Infinite did not ship with this feature, but what made it especially painful is that when people dug through Halo Infinite, they found that the split screen mode for the campaign was in fact in development, and there are ways to dig it out and actually engage with it, and it works for the most part. And so there is a timeline where they could have finished that split screen feature, but it's never been officially supported. It's not something that ever made official release. And that part just really sucked, combined with the fact that Halo Infinite's campaign did not launch with even online co-op. It took months for them to implement this feature that is such a core aspect of the Halo campaign experience that makes it so replayable and that keeps people coming back. By the time the online co-op feature for the campaign did launch, people had already moved on and was too little too late. And that's on top of the lack of campaign updates that would have brought people back. It all just coalesced into this perfect storm of this being a live service that was doomed to fail. Now, the one thing that could have saved Halo Infinite was its Forge mode, which allowed for user-created content, and folks got really creative with that, and they put out some really great stuff that kept Halo Infinite, kind of on life support for a while. But even that's an area where Microsoft and Xbox failed to support. That's an area where 343 Industries and Halo Studios failed to foster. So right here we have an article from just, a couple months ago, June of 2025 from Windows Central, reporting how Halo Infinite just lost its best Forge creators over lack of support. And this is all explained in this tweet right here by the Forge Falcons, considered to be among the best, if not the best, Forge creators. They announced right here that they're going to release one last Halo Infinite Forge creation, and then after that, they're just going to move on to Fortnite or something. And they talk right here about how none of us ever started making things in the hopes we'd get compensated and have never expected it, and to our knowledge, not a single Forger in the community has. But to see your work used in promotional material for a game, plastered all over in-game and featured in matchmaking, to not receive even a simple sincere thank you or anything, to make us feel appreciated beyond marketing events for the game, it's just an odd feeling. Microsoft and Xbox and Halo Studios, it almost feels like they took advantage of the forging community rather than encourage them by rewarding them in some way, shape, or form, even just saying thank you, And it says right here, so many amazing forgers have just given up working on Halo Infinite because of the lack of support, and it is honestly just such a shame, some even for the same reasons we are stating here. They used to talk about how one-sided the relationship between forgers and the developers of Halo Studios has felt, and to Halo Studios they said this, to Halo Studios, forgers deserve better and they deserve to be rewarded for their immense contributions to this franchise. It's saddening these conversations are still happening in 2025. Please do better. And so, when you've lost even the forgers, the folks that were fostering the user creations, that was so much of the draw of Halo Infinite, with everything else that Halo Infinite is lacking and with all of the missteps that they made, there was just nothing left to come back to with Halo Infinite when there were so many other live services out there that just were far more compelling, better maintained, were much further along, much more feature complete, and were just more fun to play and felt just much more worth your time investment, because that's what live services are, long-term time investments. And this is all on top of technical issues with Forge like safe corruption, and this user talks about how that made it incredibly hard to forge for me. If only I could save the files locally and use my own Git instead of their flaky cloud saves, with people complaining how Forge being online only has always been a giant issue that never got as much fur and attention as it should have, and how that ultimately ended up being a huge detriment with all the technical issues that Forge suffered. And then there's a good point that somebody makes here, that the fact that Halo Infinite was barely surviving, and the only reason it was barely surviving was because of Forge and essentially user-created mods. The fact that it was the community keeping Halo Infinite alive and the development side of things just wasn't contributing enough to help maintain Halo Infinite, that is just such a one-sided relationship. This user said, Halo should not survive solely on Forge and modded content, in my opinion. Their work is great, but having it be the pillar to hold up the longevity of Infinite is not their job, and I do agree with this sentiment. And then on the developer side of things, throughout the course of Halo Infinite's life cycle, we've seen massive layoffs happen at Microsoft to the point where it did affect Xbox studios like 343 Industries, or Halo Studios now. And, back in 2023, we have articles talking about ex-developers calling out Microsoft for mismanaging Halo Infinite, with folks like Patrick Wren saying the layoffs at 343 shouldn't have happened and Halo Infinite should be in a better state. The reason for both of those things is incompetent leadership up top during Halo Infinite development, causing massive stress on those working hard to make Halo the best it can be. This was Patrick Wren, the multiplayer designer for 343 Industries. And then we have Tyler Owens here, studio operations, saying how Microsoft's business practices and policies slowly is killing the thing that I love. They set Halo up for failure and much more. It's pretty scathing stuff from developers who are sick and tired of the way Halo is being treated. And then we have this Bloomberg article talking about how Halo Infinite went from disaster to triumph, mainly talking about the triumphant launch, as this article was released around the time of Halo Infinite's launch. But the post-launch of Halo Infinite did ultimately end up killing the live service. But prior to the launch, the fact that it launched at all is a miracle because the development cycle of the game was so disastrous and mismanaged. And here's like a bullet point summary on Reddit, but basically 343 was utilizing inadequate dev tools despite having 6 years to improve the tools and engine. Teams within 343 often failed to find a unified vision for the game, which hindered progress. The game had 2/3 of its content cut. Designers were told to come into work and do nothing while the studio tried to sort out the future of the game, and approximately 50% of the dev team were contract workers on 18-month rotations, with Microsoft and Xbox's overusage of contract workers having been something that's been reported on and called out, and it having long-term ramifications. Having seen this happen multiple times where developers confidently announce a 10-year plan when year one is already looking kind of shoddy, and when the game hasn't even launched yet, to be able to prove that it's even able to maintain itself for the first 5 years, I mean, it's just a cautionary tale and a big red flag. Anytime I see talks of a 10-year journey for anything that isn't released and that hasn't proven itself yet, and that hasn't set itself up to be able to engage in that kind of endeavor, 10 years is so much time. Any game that can even do 5 years, that's already like a high mark to reach. But 10 years, there's just no way to know what will happen 10 years from now. So focus on the moment to moment. Focus on delivering now. But yeah, with all said and done, this is the current state of Halo Infinite. It is dead. It died 4 years into its 10-year plan. What we can look forward to is a remake of Halo 1's campaign and whatever else they're cooking up with a Halo multiplayer game that is reportedly being worked on. I hope they learn from their mistakes, but the fact that they're looking towards the past to try to revive Halo as a franchise instead of adding kindle to the fire with endeavors that move into the future has me a little concerned. It's just a little sad to see where Halo is at right now. It is such an icon of Xbox and of gaming in general. And to see it kind of start petering out and for it to become kind of less relevant over the years because of the mishandling surrounding it just sucks. And so hopefully learnings have been had and they can come back strong with future entries. But given the recent history of Halo, that's not something that I'm holding my breath for, but it will be something that I'll keep my fingers crossed for. But that's one man's take, and that's what you need to know about the current state of Halo Infinite and the state of Halo in general. I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on all of this. Do you think there is a bright future ahead for Halo? What do you think Halo needs to do to come back? Or do you think Halo is destined to peter out and continue its downwards trajectory? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on YongYea. I'll see you guys next time. YongYea out.